Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Hey guys, in this video, Alvin and I are going to be giving you our bipartisan takes on some recent new election news.
Yeah, so attentive viewers of our channel will notice that in front of you right now is the Senate map, where we've sort of put the more safe seats for either party. Republicans look like their floor is generally going to be 50 seats, which will make sure they retain control of JD Vance as vice president. And Democrat floor looks like it's going to be around 45 seats, which would be pretty bad. Now, you will notice that the traditional four more likely to be battlegrounds here are Maine, Ohio, North Carolina, Georgia. But now we've also unmarked Michigan, which used to look pretty good for Democrats. But this morning, they did get some less than fortunate news, depending on how you look at it, on retaining control of that seat, with Democrat incumbent Senator Gary Peters declining to run again in the state of Michigan, which is probably bad news electorally for Democrats, as incumbents generally do better
hmm
in races that are very competitive. Perhaps he does not want to work with the Trump administration for another 2 years. There are a lot of reasons why he might, not run, but I'll hand it over to you now.
Yeah, this is a very interesting move, I would say, because I think for a senator, Gary Peters is relatively young. He's still in his 60s. I think average age for a senator is definitely in the 70s. Um, I would say, I think if I were if I had to guess why he would make this decision, I would say because the 2026 is very likely going to be a bluer year just because midterm years usually see a backlash to the incumbent president. So I do believe that, potentially he made this decision to make whoever his successor is have an easier time of winning the seat and holding it for the next 6 years. That's my guess.
That does make sense. I mean, there's a lot of options for him. Do you know if there's any news on the governor race and if he might throw his hat in the ring there?
I actually am not entirely sure. I could do a quick check, but I don't think he's really been talked about. I mean, but yes, I mean, I guess I
Mm.
conceivably
Cause
that
yeah,
could be an
because that could
option for him.
also be a
Yeah,
reason he's retiring here
that's a
with
good
an
catch.
open governor race. I would think that's another path he might actually be angling for with such an early retirement announcement. This is around the time when you might start floating your name for governor as well. You might see it in this race. So, anyways, we'll
Oh,
be
wait.
looking into this.
I
Go
just
ahead.
I just did a quick search. He has
Okay.
declined to run for governor as well. So I think he's just out of politics. I think he's
Wow.
exiting. There you
Okay.
go.
Well, yeah, it's very interesting. Are you where did you see that actually?
It is on the Detroit News.
Mm,
I went to the Wikipedia and they got the source from there. But yes, it
all
does
right.
seem like
Looks
that
big.
he will not be doing that either.
Looks big. All right. Well, so there you have it from the Detroit News, and we can now turn our attention to the general environment surrounding the United States Senate election in Michigan, which there are a lot of candidates that could potentially run, but one of them will not be the current governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who has now declined to run. Her pack, which has actually a very cool name, I will concede, Fight Like Hell, has now spoken. She is a no on the Senate, according to
hmm
her spokesperson, which means this race is very wide open. I would say if Gretchen Whitmer, the governor, did decide to run, it would be pretty easy for
Yeah.
her with such a big win in 2022. But looking at this, I mean, there are some notable names in the potential candidates, but honestly, it's not clear immediately who will win this primary. And even on the Republican side, there's some interesting people.
Yeah. One last note on the Whitmer thing. Uh, I'm a little disappointed she's not running for Senate. I do really like Whitmer's brand. I've been a big Whitmer fan for a while. I do think part of the reason she might not be going for it, it could just be that she's like just angling to run for president in 2028. But again, I feel like that's going to be a tough pull for her because, you know, she's term limited for her governorship in 2026. She's kind of going to be cut out of politics for like 2-ish years between 26 and 28, maybe a year. But I don't know. I feel like that 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 time in the political void might damage her chances if she does want to go for that. But I don't know. I feel like it is a kind of a weird political move, but there you go.
Yeah, all right, there we go. I mean, now I guess I'll
Hmm.
dive into some of these candidates. We'll start on the Democrat side because I think Democrats are likely to be favored no matter who they nominate, except maybe two people, which we'll talk about. Um, we have a few very generic people here, some state senators, some ambitious representatives from the House Representatives. But very notably, you also have the lieutenant governor of Michigan, who would probably be in a very strong position as she's won uh, statewide office, and also because Gretchen Whitmer, of course, is declining to run. And then you have Pete Buttigieg here, who a lot of you might know as the presidential candidate in 2020 before he backed out and eventually endorsed Biden. Eventually, looked like he probably worked out a deal to become the Secretary of Transportation with that endorsement. And he was seen as someone who was very politically ambitious. Of course, he's very young when he ran for president, and of course, this could be his next stepping stone into finally winning more higher elected office, as his previous high was only being a mayor of a city. And so this would be a big jump for him. And he does have some sort of Michigan ties, but it is a little suspicious for
Yeah.
him to move over. I mean, he is married, of course, like I said before, he is openly gay, and he is married to Chasten, I guess, uh, Chasten Buttigieg, who was born in Michigan, and I guess has is based in Michigan, which I guess is sort of his ties to Michigan, why he wants to run for office there. However, I will say that sometimes, it's called carpetbagging in politics.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look great when you move states, because obviously he's from Indiana, but he has no hope to win higher office in Indiana, so this might be his only move.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, I would say this is just carpetbagging, plain and simple here. But I mean, I guess he has some room to make an argument of his ties to Michigan. I mean, he has lived there for a few years now. I think he moved there in 2022. His husband's from there, and also South Bend's like right on the border between Indiana and Michigan. So you definitely have, like that town in particular has lots of ties to Michigan, of course, because you're going to be crossing that state border pretty frequently. Um, I would say so. Yeah, like I guess there is some argument for him there, but again, I think it will hurt him quite a bit to not have those Michigan ties. But I will say personally, I think he would be a front runner in a Democratic
Agreed.
primary. Yes, because he has a lot of money left over from his presidential campaign, I'm sure. He has very high name recognition, probably the highest of anyone on the field. From his prior run for president. So that already gives him some tremendous advantages. And just those money advantages alone will definitely allow him to get an early advantage in any primary. Also, I mean, something that's more subjective. I do think his speaking skills and ability to message is one of the most effective in the entire Democratic Party. Like I think,
No, I agree with you. I
yeah,
don't
like
think that's
I do
subjective at
think,
all. I don't think that's
yeah,
subjective at all.
I definitely think he's one of the best messengers for the Democrats, so that could help him also. Um, and and another thing that would lift him, I think, in a general, is just the blue wave. The fact that it seems like it's going to be a bluer year, like if historical trends hold. So I think all that combined, even if he is up, he would still be favored to win in a general election. It just might not he might not win by as much of a margin as say like Haley Stevens, like a established representative from the state who's lived there like forever, or the lieutenant governor Garland Gilchrist. Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I totally agree with the messaging thing. I think even as a Republican, you can definitely tell who the better messengers are of the opposite party, and Pete Buttigieg is definitely one of them. And I mean, talking about winning in general, I think on the list here, he's probably the second weakest, though.
yes.
However, on in terms of winning a general, he's one of the people that Democrats nominating would probably require some money to defend, but he does have that bank account, just like you were talking about.
Hmm.
Just one more person to mention: Rashida Tlaib, highly controversial. a member of the squad for Michigan's 12th congressional district, might be also be angling to run for this office. I personally think if she were to win a primary, which is very unlikely, but technically possible with so many candidates,
Yeah,
um, she would probably be the only person I would consider a underdog going into the general election. Actually,
I agree.
which would not be good for Democrats. And I don't even know if mainline Democrats would actually help fund her campaign with a lot of animosity between the groups. Of course, her being against Israel along with the rest of the squad could have a lot of tensions there as well. But I guess I'll move on to the Republican primary, which
Hmm.
also has many big names, although much smaller names than the ones on the Democrat side. Of course, Michigan's bench favors the Democrats being a Democrat controlled state at the state level. And of course, also the Michigan Democratic Party just putting on big performance after big performance. Very impressive. They're like the opposite of the Florida Republican Party, which just makes the other side not want to even try there. And here you have Tudor Dixon, who was the nominee for governor in 2022, but honestly flopped bigger than almost anyone predicted. Gretchen Whitmer basically beat her into a pulp, and I don't see how she would be able to make a political comeback here. You also have some other former statewide officials here, Brian Cowley, Mike Cox, who were also floated for some other statewide offices in the past. But I personally think that current elected officials are more, have a stronger chance
Hmm.
to win in this race. For example, John James, who's seen as a chronic overperformer. Bill Huizenga, who is also a representative, is also an overperformer, and these people would look good on a ballot as well. There's some other people down here who have been candidates in the past, but have often just come up short, which, that's tough. But, we don't really know who's going to run on either side just yet, but it looks like a lot of people are angling for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do agree in the fact that, well, I personally see Tudor Dixon as like probably the worst person the Republicans could run. But yes, I do agree that Huizenga and John James would be on the stronger side. Huizenga especially, I think he overperformed by like a pretty solid amount. Like he overperformed Trump's margin in 2024, I think by high single digits, if I remember correctly. So, like, I mean, yeah, so like he could conceivably perform pretty well in a general election. Although I think any Republican running here is going to start out as an underdog.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, just because, like, again, that midterm backlash is not going to be very helpful for the Republicans here, and I don't know. Like, it's conceivable also that like House leadership tries to steer someone like John James away from running for Senate or governor because they would risk losing his seat because he's from a swingy district in a year like this. So I don't know. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the path the Republicans take there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see what both sides take here, I think. I mean, probably more so on the Democrat side, right? Because they're favored. And we'll just end off this short video with going back to the map here. Like I said, the Republican floor is 50. But honestly, Ohio is probably favored for them. So they're basically their real floor is 51. And so you look at this map, and Democrats really want to claw back as many seats as possible here in this map because, I mean, look, they want to have a shot to take the Senate in 2028.
Hmm.
And if they don't, claw back a few of these seats, that's going to be out of the picture as well. With probably a more neutral year in 2028. Of course, 2026, like we talked about extensively in this video, will be more of a blue wave year. So this is their chance. If they nominate someone on the weaker side of Michigan, it could force Senate leadership to divert some resources from more interesting seats like North Carolina, Maine, and Georgia, which all of which are more near the toss-up column, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, Michigan should be the most Democrat favorable because Maine and North Carolina have Republican incumbent senators who look pretty intent on running for re-election. And then in Georgia, you have a governor who's term limited that looks like he could potentially angle
Yeah.
for Senate as well, which would throw the incumbent Democrat senator in a bit of a bind. So I think Democrats want to focus on 3 seats, not 4, but we'll have to see. Any last words here?
Yeah, I do largely agree. But yeah, I think ultimately in those 4/5 seats we have there, I think that's where most of the money is going to be in 2026 in terms of just spending and yeah, trying to at least be competitive. But yeah, I think overall, um, the in the Michigan Senate race, I would say that Democrats are still favored, um, with the considering the most likely candidates, um, even with Buttigieg, likely starting as the front runner. Yeah, I would say Dems are still slightly favored there. In conclusion.
Yeah, I agree. Probably lean D, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean that's about it for this video. Lean D in Michigan, but probably a notch less favored than they were yesterday at this time with Gary Peters seeking to retire. And that is about it for this video here. A
Hmm.
quick update on something that could be very important in the future. I mean, every vote matters. Pete Hegseth would not have become Secretary of Defense if Dave McCormick had not slightly won over Bob Casey, for example, last November. So every single Senate seat counts at every single moment in time. And thanks so much for watching this video. Like this video down below if you enjoyed. Comment down below any suggestions you have, or if you have any critiques of this video. We'd love to hear it. Subscribe to the channel down below so you don't miss our future content. And along those lines, make sure to ring the bell for notifications. And thanks for watching. Share this video with your family and friends.
See you guys.